Hey everybody, this is Chad Warren at the Adventurer Channel. Wanted to show you a tweet that started a little investigation. The point of my channel is to connect the far out stuff that is discussed online, is encouraged to be discussed in niche groups, podcasts, and such, to a new normal, right? So my hope is that the radical among us, since more and more of us are becoming radical, right, that it's becoming harder for there to be a consensus reality. Who gives a flip about the Oscars? And so it's, great to see a lot of the television media, popular culture disintegrate, but we've got to replace that with an alternative media and a whole new example of what it is to be in this center, not the corporate funded, put your pink pussy hat on to save the women and don't fart to save the earth, but I'm talking actual information and behavior that is proven successful through reason and discourse and a good time on and offline, and meeting up with some kind of impact into our localities here, so that we're not wasting our time and energy with this endless debate, but figuring out how can we, support the strongest among us in the alternative. Okay? So this is a discussion about Comicsgate, about diversity in comics, and we certainly can see that the only movies allowed to exist are Marvel Comics movies. I saw one place where I think Marvel and DC released the movies they're going to produce for the next 20 years. That is the most Nazi fascist crap that Hollywood is taking on us, and we're long past due in spending money on productions that we are much more directly a part of, so that we don't have to watch Disney Star Wars movies. So I just noticed in, they're talking about this Gail Simone. The tent poles that hold up the industry, the comic book industry, are white, cis, straight, able-bodied, and male. It's okay to chip away at that. Okay, so obviously, this is some stank hoe, some ungirlfriendable twit that is doing a Jussie Smollett and trying to make her way through blaming the white man and crying, as is popular on the left. But, my complaint is that the alt-right is just as much into douchebaggery and loserdom and autism as the left. So, me not being that big into comic books, I was trying to learn more about this story, and here's a little sample from Von Corp's comics about Gail Simone and diversity versus diversity in comics.
This webpage, these feminists, including Gail Simone, set up is calling it bad writing. It is a huge indictment of the entire industry and of men and how men create and write stories that we like, and that there's something wrong with them. Okay? That is an organized, criticism. That is a huge criticism. And these people were not in the industry. Remember, this is before Gail was ever in the industry. So what happens when they do this? Well, it becomes pretty much a quintessential feminist criticism in all media to this day. I even overheard a chick who was working in a shop I was in talking about how she liked this show because it didn't have too many women in refrigerators. They dropped the term like it's just this normal thing now.
Okay, so I agree wholeheartedly with everything that was said there. And I'm 42, born in 76. Definitely, my parents, let alone people of their generation or my peers, would look at me as a total loser. What do I have to show for any of this? So that's what I'm trying to help here and say. What do any of us, white males or feminist, robot trainees or whatever we come up with have to show for our passion, right? And that the more we are artificial, the more that we are mediated, and watching YouTube all the time is no better than watching cable TV. It's rotting away at our precious life force, and is creating a bunch of repeaters, non-player characters that are just living off of this toxic currency of memes and trite little sound clips. Okay, so going on with my point of view here to ask us to kind of pan out and look at our human behavior in general. What is what if this is a long held tradition of the comics industry to give jobs? He says here in the video that because of her complaining, and she's got this website, Women in Refrigerators, saying that anytime a man writes a story where his love interest is tragically murdered, that this is somehow helping men, which is obviously retarded. But she was given a job for complaining, right? And then I just found out that this Jesse Smollett schmuck got his job back on Empire. So boycott that show. I mean, my God. But what if this is a long held tradition of the comics industry to give jobs to people that corrupt humanity and encourage mental illness in the population due to the titillation of sick fantasies? Yes, I also see the scam of modern feminism where women are taught to act like men, to act like victims, and that behavior is rewarded. They're not acting like real men, they're acting like whiny, sniveling little turds. Okay? I'm not anywhere close to the man that I want to be. I'm 42, so I remember a time before adults wanting to be infantile for the rest of their lives, as it's encouraged by the culture. Reading comic books and playing video games, seeing graphic novels be celebrated at our local libraries. Let's go back to the 90s with Spawn making the murder of pedophiles by a hellspawn seem cool. So, yeah. Oh, I don't even care enough to remember the dude's name at the time. At this time, I just remember being on the periphery of comic books in the '90s. Todd McFarlane, right? He's got all the merchandise. That was alternative comics in the '90s, and you'd go into the baseball card store and you gotta get your foil cards, your first edition comics. So these hurry up and get a whole bunch of content that's going to be valueless. Here's something to waste your life essence on. So he was, did quality art, right? But you know, creating a bunch of plastic voodoo dolls for our children, adult children of alcoholics to worship is no grand prize. I wish we would. Yeah, legitimate concern about pedophilia at the Vatican is what fueled a lot of people to join the Nazi Party in Germany. See Freeman Fly over at Freeman TV, and they've got he and his girlfriend at the time, Jamie Henshaw, wrote weird. Oh, what's the name of the book? I'm sorry. They wrote a book, a coffee table book. I'm totally blanking out on it right now. But yeah, Freeman's always commenting because his mother grew up in Nazi Germany, and I think it was her father. No, who? Somebody close to her was in the Nazi youth. You know what I mean? Like because at the time, the same topic today about the Vatican being where all this pedophilia that goes on, and I remember as a child going to Catholic school, and this fat white curly-headed principal. I was in detention along with this other boy Eric, At one point, we're picking up trash. He takes us across the street to Whataburger. And what he was doing is sizing us up, and he picked the other boy and abused him. So, that, yes, really does happen, but we've got to get smart here, okay? I wish we would evolve in terms of the psychological operations used against humanity instead of exacerbating the revenge of the nerds autistic cult that is the majority of conversation online today. You know, what impact are we making on the normal folk, on ourselves? We need to be results goal oriented, productive. I think there's a lot of us who do wish to live according to the virtues we champion in said comic books, but our personal lives are a shambles. As I speak to you from a camper that I live in, practically in a van down by the river, like Chris Farley. So I'm just trying to be somebody that is keeping myself and us sane and organizing some kind of coalition of the sane and willing to move us in a better direction instead of being critical all the time. Being critical is tearing down. What are we building up? Thank you.